"Look at you," the CEO snarled, pointing at the black janitor's uniform. "You can't even mop the floor right, and you think you deserve to work in my building? People like you don't rise," he said louder, in front of everyone. "You're here to clean, not to think. You're uneducated, you're replaceable, and you should be grateful I even let you sweep these halls," he added, as employees froze in silence. But what the CEO didn't know, the man he was humiliating had a secret hidden inside that old metal locker, a secret that would tear the entire company open and destroy the CEO's pride forever. Before we continue, from which country are you watching this story? Let me know in the comments. I love seeing our global family grow. And if you enjoy powerful stories like this, make sure to subscribe. Your support truly means a lot. SkyTech Industries did not believe in warmth. It believed in numbers, results, and spotless floors that reflected the company's billion-dollar reputation. Every morning, the endless glass walls gleamed like polished ice, the air smelled of expensive machinery, and the employees moved like they were part of a silent, mechanical system. Efficient, distant, replaceable. And somewhere inside this cold ecosystem worked Jamal Thompson, the one person nobody really saw. Jamal was 42, tall but slightly hunched from years of night shifts, his skin dark and smooth, his voice gentle, his footsteps quiet. He pushed his cleaning cart through the chrome hallways at 6 a.m. every day, always early, always silent, always forgotten. He didn't complain, didn't gossip, didn't interrupt. He just cleaned. And people treated him like he was part of the walls. But there was one thing that always drew attention: the small silver key he wore around his neck, tucked under his shirt, never removed, never shown to anyone. It belonged to his old metal locker, dented at the corners, paint peeling, a relic from years ago. And no matter what happened, Jamal never let anyone touch it. Some whispered that he was weird. Others joked that the locker probably held nothing but a sandwich and a spare mop. No one ever guessed how wrong they were. Among the hundreds of SkyTech employees, only one person noticed Jamal regularly, but not with kindness. Richard Hale, the CEO. Mid-50s, perfectly tailored suits, a mind sharp enough to build an empire, but a heart cold enough to crush anything he considered beneath him. He judged people by degrees, credentials, and pedigree, and to him, a janitor was barely worthy of breathing the same air. Every time Richard passed Jamal in the hallway, his jaw tightened with irritation. Every morning when he saw the janitor's cart, he sighed like the sight personally offended him. And every time he glimpsed the small key around Jamal's neck, his curiosity blended with something darker: disdain. That morning began like any other, but fate had something else planned. The executive staff gathered in the lobby for an early briefing. Suits everywhere, tablets glowing, the usual corporate chatter. Jamal quietly worked on the other side of the hall, wiping the marble floor near the entrance, careful not to disturb anyone. Then it happened. The intern, carrying a stack of prototype samples, tripped on a cable and crashed into a table, sending papers and a cup of coffee spilling across the marble floor. A murmur spread across the lobby. And of course, Richard Hale arrived at that exact moment. Before Jamal could even reach for his mop, the CEO's voice cut through the room like a blade. Unbelievable. Employees turned. Jamal froze for half a second. "Look at you," Richard snapped, marching toward him. "You can't even mop the floor properly without turning this lobby into a mess." Jamal glanced at the spill. He hadn't even touched that area yet. He opened his mouth to explain, but the CEO didn't allow him a second. "People like you don't rise," Richard said, louder, in front of everyone. "You're here to clean, not to think. You're uneducated, you're replaceable, and honestly," he pointed directly at Jamal's chest, "you're a floor mop with shoes." A few whispered gasps spread across the hall. The intern who caused the spill looked like she was about to cry. Jamal simply tightened his grip on the mop. "I'm sorry, sir," he said quietly, voice steady even though something cracked inside him. He kneeled and started cleaning the spill, in silence. Every movement controlled, careful, respectful. The lobby slowly returned to its pristine shine. Around him, the employees drifted back into their routines, pretending they hadn't witnessed the humiliation, even though the sting of it lingered in the air. But there was one person who didn't look away: Mia, the new intern in the data analysis department. She had seen the whole thing, from the moment Richard marched toward Jamal, to the quiet apology, to the pain that flickered in the janitor's eyes, even though he hid it well. She watched him as he wiped the floor with calm precision, as if trying to erase not just the coffee, but the words thrown at him. And for the first time, she wondered, why did this man carry so much quiet dignity in a place that treated him like nothing? When the lobby cleared and the morning shift settled into its usual cold rhythm, Jamal pushed his cart down the hallway, breathing slow, steady breaths, like someone trying to hold himself together. Nothing new. Just another day. He reached the maintenance room, pulled out his old flip phone, one of those outdated models with scratches on the screen, intending to check the time. But a new notification blinked. Jamal rarely got messages. Almost no one even had his contact. His eyes narrowed, his hand trembling just a little. As he flipped the phone open, he read the email. And suddenly, everything in his expression changed. Shock, fear, maybe even hope. Whatever he saw, it wasn't small, it wasn't ordinary, and it definitely wasn't good news for SkyTech. The rest of the morning at SkyTech moved the way it always did, fast, cold, and mechanical. But underneath the surface of that routine, something new had begun stirring. A quiet whisper, a ripple of curiosity, a shift in the air no one could yet explain. Because even though the CEO's humiliation faded from the lobby, the image of Jamal's face, calm on the outside, wounded on the inside, didn't leave people's minds, especially not Mia's. Later that afternoon, while employees typed furiously and managers barked orders, Mia passed by the security corridor. There, she saw something that made her pause. One of the digital keypads for a restricted room had malfunctioned. Again, a small crowd of frustrated engineers stood around it, tapping buttons and arguing. "It's frozen. It's glitching. Again. We need maintenance." And then Jamal appeared, pushing his cleaning cart quietly down the hall. He didn't say anything. He simply stopped near the group, observing the keypad from a distance. An engineer sighed. "Hey, man, can you call the maintenance tech? This thing is dead." Jamal stepped forward, gently placing his mop aside. "If you don't mind, may I try something?" The engineers exchanged looks.
A janitor fixing a digital keypad? But the keypad wasn't opening anyway, so they stepped back. Jamal moved his fingers across the panel. Not randomly, not guessing. He pressed a series of buttons with surprising speed and precision, then pulled off the small protective strip beneath the keypad and reset a tiny switch most people didn't even know existed. The screen blinked, rebooted, unlocked. The door slid open smoothly. The engineers stared. How did you know how to do that?" one asked. Jamal simply smiled a little and shrugged. "I used to, work with things like this, long time ago." He didn't say anything else. He just picked up his mop and continued down the hall, leaving the engineers whispering. Mia stood at the corner, watching. The question forming in her mind grew bigger. Who exactly was Jamal Thompson? In a place like SkyTech, nothing stayed quiet for long. By lunch, people were already talking. "I swear he knew more about that keypad than our tech guy. Maybe he used to be an engineer." "No way, he's a janitor. But he fixed it in seconds." And others recalled strange moments too. "He once advised me to invest in a small energy startup. I actually did it, and guess what? The stock doubled." "What? A janitor gave you investment advice?" It sounded crazy, but he was right. Small pieces of a puzzle started appearing. None connected yet, but curiosity was growing. And one rumor spread more than anything else. What's inside the janitor's locker? Because everyone knew he guarded it. Not aggressively, not suspiciously, but protectively, like someone guarding a piece of their soul. And to a corporate environment filled with boredom and stress, a mystery was entertainment. But to Richard Hale, the CEO, it was a threat.
Richard heard the whispers too. Whispers that made him pause mid-step. Whispers that cut straight into his pride. He's not just a janitor. Maybe he's smarter than the engineering team. I heard he fixed the keypad the CEO himself couldn't fix. Imagine if he actually has skills. Skills? The janitor? Richard's jaw tightened. The idea that the man he publicly humiliated in the lobby might secretly be intelligent? It irritated him more than he expected. Because to Richard, intelligence belonged to those with degrees, diplomas, and polished resumes, not a man pushing a mop. And when his assistant mentioned that employees were speculating about what Jamal kept in his old metal locker, Richard felt something new. Not curiosity, not concern, something darker. Obsession. Why did the janitor guard that locker? Why did he carry that key around his neck like it was worth more than his job? What was he hiding? Richard wanted answers. Not tomorrow, not later, but now. The next morning came with another twist. Jamal didn't come to work. He had never missed a day. Not in years. His absence hung over the hallways like a secret, waiting to be uncovered. What happened? Did he quit? Maybe he finally got tired of being treated like trash. But to Richard, Jamal's absence wasn't a coincidence. It was an opportunity. And as he walked toward the maintenance area, the fluorescent lights buzzing above him, a dangerous idea crept into his mind. Why wait for answers when he could simply take them? He stopped in front of the janitor's locker, stared at the dented metal door, then reached into a drawer nearby. He pulled out a pair of bolt cutters. Cold, sharp, heavy. And with them in hand, Richard Hale made a choice. The choice that would expose everything he was never prepared to face.
Richard Hale stood alone in the dim maintenance hallway, the cold metal bolt cutters heavy in his hands. The fluorescent lights above flickered, casting uneven shadows across the row of old lockers, all identical except one. Jamal's locker, dented, scratched, unchanged for years. Yet somehow, it felt like the center of the entire building that morning. Richard's heartbeat echoed in his ears, louder than he expected. It irritated him. Why was he nervous? This was his company, his building, his right. At least that's what he told himself. He gripped the lock with the bolt cutters. Clink. The first squeeze didn't cut through, but it was enough to leave a mark. "Sir?" Richard froze. It was Mia, the last person he wanted to see. She held a stack of paperwork, but her eyes fixed on the bolt cutters. "Mr. Hale, what are you doing?" He straightened, clearing his throat. "Opening a locker that belongs to my employee. It's company property." Mia stepped forward, voice cautious. "Sir, Jamal guards that locker for a reason. Maybe you should wait. Talk to him. He's not here today, and I don't answer to a data intern." Her face tightened, but she didn't move. "You humiliated him yesterday, and now you're breaking into his personal things? Why?" Richard didn't like questions, especially ones he didn't have answers to. "Because," he said sharply, "this company has standards, and if he's hiding something—" "Sir, he's never given you a reason to distrust him." Richard's jaw clenched. He didn't know why, but hearing someone defend the janitor, someone he publicly humiliated, made his ego flare like gasoline on fire. He turned away from her, positioned the cutters again, and this time, crack! The lock snapped. The echo traveled down the empty hallway like a warning. Mia flinched. Richard exhaled slowly, almost triumphantly, and pulled the locker door open. And then, the world seemed to stop. No mop, no spare clothes, no sandwiches. Instead, the inside of the locker looked nothing like anything a janitor should have. Blueprints, stacks of them, complex futuristic designs stamped with engineering codes. Some were marked with SkyTech's old logo, some with companies Richard personally knew and feared. A tablet, old but protected with layers of foam. Its screen displayed incomplete code, advanced code, code even Richard barely understood. Files, labeled SkyTech Prototype version 1, Internal Security Breach Logs, Energy Storage Model, Patent Draft A, and at the bottom, a framed certificate. Richard pulled it out with trembling hands. Jamal Thompson, Master's Degree in Electrical Engineering, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. The CEO felt his stomach drop. Mia covered her mouth. Stunned. "Sir, Jamal went to MIT?" But Richard wasn't listening anymore. His eyes were locked on the folder behind the certificate. A folder marked Security Breach. Inside were documents, printed emails, time-stamped reports, proof of financial fraud, manipulated research results, signed by one name, Richard Hale. The CEO staggered back as if someone had punched him. This wasn't just a locker. It was a vault holding the truth, a vault holding his downfall. And at that exact moment, a voice echoed from the entrance of the hallway. Calm, steady, unexpected. "I wish you hadn't opened that, Mr. Hale." Richard turned. Jamal was standing there, not with a mop, not with a cart, just with the quiet strength of a man who finally stopped hiding. For a moment, the hallway felt suspended in time. Richard slowly lowered the documents in his hands, his face drained of color. The bold letters of his own signature seemed to burn into his vision like a confession he could never take back.
Mia stepped aside as Jamal walked forward. Not rushed, not angry, but with the controlled calm of a man who had spent years preparing for this moment. Jamal, Richard managed, his voice cracking despite his effort to sound authoritative. This isn't what it looks like. Jamal raised an eyebrow gently. Really, sir, because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what it is. The CEO swallowed hard. Mia watched silently, her heart pounding. This wasn't the timid janitor from the lobby. This was someone different, someone powerful, someone the entire company had underestimated. Jamal reached inside the locker, carefully removing the blueprint labeled Energy Storage Model Patent Draft A. He held it up. Do you remember this design? Richard hesitated. We tested something similar years ago. I made this. Jamal's voice was firm but steady. 6 years before you fired my entire research team. Mia's eyes widened. You worked at SkyTech before? Jamal nodded. I was one of the lead engineers. I designed half the power systems this company still uses. But when Mr. Hale here discovered my patent could earn billions, he submitted it under his name. Richard stepped forward, desperation creeping into his voice. You don't understand how corporate strategy works. You weren't ready to lead that project. I gave you a chance to— No, Jamal interrupted, for the first time letting anger enter his tone. I stole your work. You sabotaged my credentials, and when I threatened to expose you, you blacklisted me from every engineering firm in the state. Mia stared at Jamal in shock. You mean you've been working as a janitor because, Jamal said softly, after he destroyed my reputation, this was the only job SkyTech offered me, a job he knew no one else would hire me for. Richard's jaw tightened. You accepted the position. You signed the contract. Jamal gave a sad, tired smile. I had a wife in the hospital and a son in school. I needed money. I chose dignity over revenge. He pointed at the documents scattered inside the locker. And while you laughed at me, while you mocked me in front of your employees, I was rebuilding what you tried to destroy. Richard took a step back, his voice trembling, something no employee had ever heard. What is all this? Why collect it now? Because, Jamal replied, your time is up. He held up the most important file, a fully documented timeline of Richard's fraud, complete with signatures, emails, and timestamps. I kept everything. Every stolen patent, every manipulated report, every decision you made that put this company at risk. And now, he took a slow breath. I finally have enough to win. Mia looked at Jamal with awe and fear mixed together. You're taking him to court? Jamal nodded. I'm taking back my life. Richard felt his world collapsing. You can't do this to me, he whispered. Jamal took one step closer, face calm, voice steady. Sir, you already did it to yourself.
Silence gripped the entire room. Jamal stood in the middle of the conference hall, holding the small key that had been around his neck for 14 long years. The same key everyone thought belonged to an old, rusty janitor's locker. But now the truth stood exposed. It was the key to SkyTech's original storage vault, the one the founders used when the company first started. Jamal wasn't just a janitor. He was one of the silent architects who had been forced out, erased, and pushed to the shadows after a merger gone wrong. But Jamal didn't stand there in anger. He stood there in dignity. CEO Richard Hale, for the first time in his career, felt his arrogance collapse like glass under pressure. His face softened, then tightened with guilt as he looked at the man he had bullied, mocked, and degraded, a man who had quietly carried the company's oldest secret. Jamal's voice was steady. "I never wanted revenge," he said, his eyes scanning the room filled with people who had smirked at him for years. "I just wanted to earn a living and be treated like a human being, not a mistake someone forgot to throw away." His words landed like stones in a silent lake, creating ripples everyone felt. Richard stepped forward, but he couldn't look Jamal in the eyes. I don't know what to say," he whispered, ashamed. "I misjudged you. I disrespected you. Jamal raised a hand gently. "Respect isn't about positions. It's about humanity." The board members shifted uncomfortably. HR lowered her gaze. The employees who once laughed avoided his eyes. For the first time, SkyTech felt smaller than the man they had stepped on. Then something remarkable happened. Jamal walked to his locker, the old metal one everyone thought was full of rags and brooms. He opened it slowly. Inside wasn't junk, but folders filled with the company's earliest blueprints, hand-drawn designs, sketches of prototypes, and the original concept that helped SkyTech rise. Drawings with his name signed in the corner. One by one, people gasped. Richard's knees weakened. You helped build SkyTech?" "I did, but life doesn't always give fair credit." He closed the locker gently, almost lovingly. "I came back not to take anything from you. I came back to protect the company I helped create. You were heading toward a fall you didn't see coming, and someone had to stop it." There was no revenge in his voice, only truth. Jamal then quietly handed Richard an envelope, the missing files that would save SkyTech from bankruptcy. "Fix the company. Fix the culture. Fix yourself." Richard swallowed hard. I will," he whispered. And for the first time ever, he bowed his head to the janitor. The employees followed. A wave of quiet respect filled the room, not out of fear, not out of pressure, but out of genuine realization. A man they thought was invisible had become the mirror they desperately needed. This story isn't about a janitor. It isn't about a CEO. It isn't even about a company. It's about respect. About how easily we judge and how easily we forget that the people we underestimate often carry the greatest strength, wisdom, and stories. If Jamal's journey touched your heart, if his strength inspired you, if his dignity made you think, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more emotional, powerful stories, and share this with someone who needs this reminder today. Never look down on anyone, because the person you step on today might be the one who saves you tomorrow.